On this day in 1775, the first military engagements of the American Revolution took place. Hey there, I'm Alec Belmore, you're watching History and Intrigue, and the shot heard round the world was not just a Fire Schoolhouse rock song. Before we dive into the battles of Lexington and Concord, there's some historical background to consider, which I've distilled down to a couple of points. First, the British had occupied Boston since 1768 in order to enforce the Intolerable Acts, a response to such rebellious actions such as the Boston Tea Party. Second, the British had no control over Massachusetts outside Boston. Although British military governor of Massachusetts, Thomas Gage, had essentially disbanded the local colonial government, most of the colony was overseen by a rebellious provincial congress. And third, the Massachusetts militias had stockpiled a whole bunch of weapons and ammunition at Concord. On April 18th, Thomas Gage gave orders to the Redcoats to move on Concord from Boston. Most of the rebellion's leaders had already left Boston, so Paul Revere set off on his famous midnight ride to warn of the British movement. Thanks to that alarm, as well as a similar ride from Samuel Prescott, militiamen rallied to meet the British at Lexington the next day. This led to a standoff until the infamous first shot was fired. No one truly knows who fired first, but both parties agreed it came from somewhere off to the side and not from any of the directly involved combatants. This was more of a skirmish than an actual battle, but 8 Lexington militiamen were killed, 10 were wounded, and 1 British soldier kinda hurt his thigh. The British then moved on Concord, where a much larger battle ensued and led to a pissing contest between Lexington and Concord for the past 2 centuries, who both claim to be the birthplace of the Revolution. Although the first shot did take place at Lexington, the reports of that incident are sometimes contradictory, and Concord claims they had the first real resistance. Speaking of the shot heard round the world, that phrase comes from a Ralph Waldo Emerson poem titled Concord Hymn, so make what you will of that. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about the American Revolution, be sure to subscribe to the History and Intrigue YouTube channel, and feel free to drop us a line letting us know what things you might want to learn a little bit more about. Alright, have a good one.